This has to be, in my opinion, the highlight of the art year in Nashville. The show is stellar. The presentation is stellar. The work is stellar. It doesn't come easily. I know a lot of work went into making this happen. Gary Haynes right there. Annie, where are you, Annie? Put your hand right, Annie. And John, where's John? I know they worked around the clock getting things from John's house, the artwork, to laying it out to make this happen. So give them a huge round of applause for making such a wonderful event. Unfortunately,
that's exactly what I wanted to do, and you took the words out of my mouth. I wanted to applaud Gary. I want to applaud Gary for the finest installation.
Applaud him. Go right ahead. Tell him.
No, I want everybody else to applaud. I want everybody to applaud now, Gary. This has got to be. I'm stepping away from myself, and I want to thank Gary for doing the best installation ever for any artist in the city, in the Southeast, in the country.
I second that.
He outdid it. He outdid himself.
Come back more often.
Gary outdid himself, and he's displayed somewhere around the corner. John
Urban, right there.
He's displayed somewhere around the corner an Oscar that an art dealer gave me for the best photography show. And I feel guilty about that because what I want to do is present Gary an Oscar for the best achievement.
Well, how cool is that?
Lifetime achievement. Lifetime achievement award. So this
is. Step on up for your Oscar.
So this is for you, Gary. It's a lifetime achievement award.
All right. Josh was plastic, so was this one.
So thank you, Gary.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. And on with the show, please.
Nashville has gone Hollywood, guys. I'm telling you, I knew it would happen. We've gone Hollywood. That's fantastic. Now, sincerely, Sarah, this is Sarah Lee Bird, who's our editor of the magazine, the Nashville Arts Magazine. We try and cover all the art shows that go on in this town. And when I walked in here the other day, my jaw dropped. It literally dropped. I was like, oh my gosh, he's outdone himself. All the little things that they got from John's home, all these little artifacts you can see, the license plates, the artwork, the diners. If you ever are fortunate enough to be invited to this man's home, don't not go. Just go and see where he lives, because it is the eighth wonder of the known world out there. It's unbelievable.
It's just a lot of stuff.
His collections, it's collections of photographs, collections of toys, of cars, of things that are just of importance to you on some level. Let me ask you, why do you collect all that stuff?
They're my friends. They don't leave you.
If you go to his house and see that, you'll know that's probably very, very true.
I started collecting when I was a little boy. And
collecting what, cards?
Well, I was collecting toy cars when I was about 6, 7, 8, When I was about 5, I was collecting bus transfers. And then I had a little playmate across the street from me whose father had a military supply store for uniforms. It's called Service Uniform. And he brought me all these wonderful little patches from World War II.
So you collect the patches?
And they were so colorful, and they were very graphic. That was my first introduction to graphics and color, and they were embroidered. So they were like my first collections. Margot, my sister, I'm sure she remembers it, and because she knew our neighbors. And so then I started collecting little toy cars. My father would go on monthly business trips to New York. He'd always bring back a little toy car.
And you kept it?
And I was about 4 or 5, and then I had a little ritual where I put the toy cars in the garage, which was underneath the bed.
So you kept a little garage there?
Margot's getting a big kick
out of it. When he says a collection of toy cars,
but I've got quite a collection now,
in terms of thousands. Don't think in terms of 2 or 3. Thousands of these little cars that are all displayed.
The thing about it is that I'm really very minimal. Seriously, I mean, with real serious toy collectors, I mean, I'm really minimal. But
it's an outstanding collection, and right here, right there, is the first painting that this man ever did.
My first plein air and my last plein air, Gary. No, actually, I guess I was about, 14, and going to the Art Institute, Saturday classes with the blue hairs, the women who are a lot older than me,
Right.
who I'm more older than they are right now.
We won't tell them that.
No, but seriously, that was like an old house on Peachtree Street, and.
And you were how old when you did this?
I was about 14, and we were told to use a painting knife, and we were scumbling.
Oh, so that's all with a palette knife?
That's all with a palette knife.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Ross?
But Gary was in the house. Gary was in the house, and he found this. He was just so wonderful. He saw everything hanging on the wall, and he just sort of took stuff and lovingly framed some pieces. And he saw this, and he saw this Finster piece and a few other, and he just.
And this, of course, is John done by Finster. Remarkable.
Yeah, he did paintings of Jane and myself. Jane's got hers, I guess, somewhere, right?
Where is Jane? Another incredible. There she's.
And he gave them to us as gifts, but we paid him for it.
Right. So all these little collections that you started off with, John, that's what got you interested in the arts. That the visual, just seeing these badges and the cars and the postcards. That's what got you going.
I'll tell you where it started. Let's go back over. Let's go back.
Okay, let's go over here and have a look. We're going to look at some photographs.
Let's go back to see where it started.
This is going to be a true walk around.
Let's answer your question. This is where it started.
The baby
It
brownie.
started with this right here.
The baby brownie.
Come round, guys.
Yeah. Did you have one?
I had a few.
It started with this, and I would get on my trusty Schwinn magazine. Trusty Schwinn bicycle, and I would drive all over Atlanta, or bicycle all over Atlanta, and this is I tried to find this old. You send them off to the drugstore. A week later, you got your pictures back, and this was like a yellow cover. Typical, I can't find it, but it's somewhere. So that's where it all started.
But
and you being a documentary filmmaker, I did not know what I was doing. I was driving around taking pictures of these old cars. Right. I was documenting.
You were documenting.
And that's where it started.
That's exactly right.
That's where it started.
Yeah. So you were looking at old cars, you were looking at old buildings. Over here, you were back. Now here, you were in London and New York.
Can someone bring me some water?
London over here.
No, here. No, these black and white photographs were all taken when I was in advertising in the '60s. I was in Atlanta, and I was in New York, and I was shooting pictures around New York. And then when I'd go off on TV shoots, I would like the one from London or England or Germany.
You know what surprises me about a lot of them, John, is the lack of people. There's not a whole lot of people.
Don't need them; they get in the way. But there's people right there.
No, but you tended to like the storefronts, empty houses, places in falling down, kind of solitary.
There's people there.
Well, they're falling down too. Look, they're just standing the bus stop in London.
No,
but they look very sort of, isolated, very sort of.
Yeah. Well, that's the way. That's sort of like frontal documentary photography. Basically.
That's what you were drawn to, this black and white stuff over here.
Well, I was drawn to black and white because I'm vintage, right? At least I'm in denial about vintage. I grew up during the war, in World War II as a kid, but I was weaned on Life magazine. I was weaned on early black and white television. Sure. And so black and white was really important to me. And in fact, a lot of photorealists, all of us, were weaned on black and white.
Why is it that there's always a lot more color in a black and white photograph than there is in a color photograph? Just somehow or other, a black and white photograph seems to capture so much more.
I was going to talk about that with the aircraft paintings. It has to do with values, going from black to grays to whites. And sometimes there's more color in black and white than there is in color. Yeah. But the great thing about black and white is that it says non-fiction as opposed to fiction with color. Mm-hmm. And that's why so much black and white documentary is so important, because as we were talking the other day, like if we saw Citizen Kane or some of those great black and white movies like
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. You can name
the Ghost of Christmas Past.
You can name the whole list. I mean, like my favorite is The Best Years of Our Lives. If you saw those films in color, they wouldn't make it. Mm-hmm.
Tell me who this is back here, because I'm a huge fan of his. I had no idea who that was.
Dave Brubeck.
That's Dave Brubeck. Take 5.
I was at a concert at Emory University in 1962 with a college friend of mine who reminded me that we went backstage. I totally forgot about it to see the group. But we went to see Dave Brubeck at a concert, and I just had the photograph lying around. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Gary saw it,
Fabulous photograph.
and
So you
I printed it myself, by the way. I worked on that print. That print was I burned in a lot on the right side.
So you were in advertising in New York. You were 21 years old. You were the creative art director.
No, I was 21 in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, head of the department.
When I went to New York, I was 25, but I was not.
Well, look, we all have to to do this pose. This is the John Baeder pose for the evening. Everybody has to do this. There you go.
I was not
That's the Baeder pose for tonight.
a boss yet.
So what led you from the advertising department into getting into fine art? Is it this painting right here?
Well, where are those postcards?
Those postcards are, can we bring them over here? And this was one of John's first paintings.
Me too.
Where are those postcards? I can't remember where we put them.
Right here. These are the very four.
I started
postcards that John started.
collecting. I was going to flea markets, and I started collecting postcards. And I saw postcards as sort of surreal paintings. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to blow them up.
Right.
And I got real interested in roadside imagery, which was motels, gas stations, tourist
What
camps,
inspired
and
this one?
diners.
Which postcard was it?
So, one of my first postcards
Oh, there it is.
that I painted, I guess that's like the fifth or the
This
sixth.
is unbelievable, guys, because this right here is the very genesis of the man's start in his career. It was this postcard right here, and this was the first painting that he did from it. So, his career right back to one image, and there I have it.
And then to add to that, Paul,
Yes.
everyone, can you see? This is the invitation to my first show, which was nothing but postcard imagery. So what I did was, I used this card, and I put in each little vignette. I put in a different postcard image. Oh, here's Mrs. Postcard right here. Here's the greatest postcard collector besides myself, but she's got a bigger collection. Is Jill Klein. So I gotta give you credit because.
And what was it about the postcards? I read somewhere that you were that you would look at them through a magnifying glass and imagine yourself in that place, on that street.
What'd you do? Did you read something I wrote about that? Or?
No, I went through your drawers at home, John, and I found a little piece of paper and said,
No, but
That's right.
I'm missing a
little
couple.
chauffeur.
I'm missing a couple of cards here. But what I wanted to say is that to round out the oh, you can pull one out. You got a couple, right? To round out the my first show, I wanted to give it some scope and some depth, and I wanted to get away from the color, and I wanted to do what's known as a photo postcard, like Katie's here, which actually.
So this is
Gary has
Katie's Diner, right?
No, it was a gift store.
But she's dining as well. She's got fudge, pralines. It's just like,
Well, but it's not a diner. Anyway,
Well, anyway.
it's one of those.
the point is. And,
I might get these out.
all right, here. All right, this
Oh,
is
yes, now I see.
street scene.
Gotcha.
All right, I love street scenes. So what I wanted to do was a photo postcard painting
Right.
in black and white. So I did a few of those, and I started painting realistically because it was a lot of fun. You know, and it was like drawing, and I love to draw. So that's how I started painting realistically.
So it wasn't-
now everybody knows how I started to paint realistically.
But there wasn't like an influence where you saw somebody else's work,
No,
another artist, and said, "Oh, I love that."
No. It just came naturally.
It just came naturally.
Came naturally.
Can I look
Yeah.
at these again?
It came naturally. That's all.
So you were just placing yourself in these, and I think we've all done it at one point or other. Gotten a postcard, sort of wonder what that's like to actually be there myself. And I mean, this is. I mean, you
Well,
can.
I changed that considerably. What I did with this card was, I took out these cars and I put in. It's in the book. A little sell for the book. If you want to get the book, you can see it's in the book. I took out these cars and I put in 3 or 4 other cars, and I changed this to all green. Does this say salad bowl?
It does.
Yeah, I changed this to all green to make it look like a salad bowl.
Oh, I love it.
And that's in the book.
And this one here, it says diner on there. I can
That's
see
my
it.
first
That is
painting.
the diner.
That was my first
That's
painting.
your first painting of a
That's my
diner.
first painting.
This actual one right here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's in the book
It's
also.
remarkable that you've kept all this stuff
Yeah.
over the years.
Well, I had to.
There'll be an episode of
You know why I
Hoarders
kept
on
it?
TV very soon.
Because I had a
Joey.
dream. I had a dream, and I dreamt that some night we're gonna be able to talk about it.
Funny how those dreams come true. And talking of dreams, let's go in this room and have a look at these aeroplanes. This is another Starboy. And really, again, come on in, guys. We're going to wait for you to come on in.
Can you? No, that's okay. I got it.
Come on in, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna put him in the car. and take
Yes,
him home.
mine too. Come on in, Joe. Come over here, Joe. Guys, come on in.
Look at the little smudge.
This, I went to John's house maybe a year or so ago and he asked me to come and look at this new work. Come on in. That he was doing. And of course, I went over there expecting to see diners or another big boy doing this or whatever. What I did not expect to see was aeroplanes, World War II aeroplanes. And that stopped me in my tracks until John explained to me that as a little boy, he collected hundreds and hundreds of these, which he still has, all in this box over here, all labeled, all categorized. This is his digital system over here.
Yeah, I was about 12 or 13, and what I did was I took New Ace corners and took the photographs that I got from aviation historians, 2 aviation historians and 1 commercial place in Toronto, Canada, and I obsessively typed in the designations, and what happened was I can't remember, I was thinking about driving over, I can't remember whether I had the wooden box first or this box first, because I started filling them up within a matter of years. I was between 12 and about 14. And then I just noticed tonight also, well, I knew about this, but the aviation historians used a specific camera, which was this negative in this format. And this person was so serious, this historian, he would stamp, in other words, this is one of a kind, he would stamp his name and address on here and number each photograph. I've seen these on eBay. I got them for maybe 15 cents a piece. I've seen them for over $10 a piece now. But anyway,
Now this one
the
over
thing
here-
about it is, what's so fascinating though, Paul, what's really fascinating is that these 2 boxes have stayed with me through all my lives and all my moves for a reason. I didn't know why, but
now you do.
now I do.
It's interesting that the things that kind of kept you up at night when you were a little boy, which were these aeroplanes, collecting them, keeping them, looking at them, are the things that now keep you up painting them. Because this you did in 1973. This was
Well,
the first.
it was a commission by Ivan Karp for a
The
show.
first of the.
It was a commission.
There it is.
It was a commission for a.
How often did you get
for,
to see that? The real thing?
Yeah, it was a
Fantastic.
commission for. I was already painting a year and a half then, but all the first generation photorealists were having a show for this one collector by the name of Spicer, and it was a show of aircraft, and he asked me to join them. And I was honored too, because I've only been painting a year and a half, so I kept the painting all through these years, and it sits above my computer, and it's been like a muse because I look at it all the time, and I say, hey, someday.
I'm gonna do this.
And in 1995, that someday happened. I did another painting, and I did a few watercolors, which are on the wall right there in 2002. And then I decided, well, someday again. And then all of a sudden, around April 2014, I decided to go out on a limb.
Now's the time to do
And Gary, I have to commend Gary.
it.
I don't know where he is right now.
He's right there.
Gary, I commend you too, because you went out on a limb also. So I'll join you and you join me. Because,
Tell me why.
Because changing directions so drastically like that.
For an artist, it's risky business.
Yeah,
It's risky business.
But
for an
it's
artist to
doing
do
it's
that.
doing what
Yeah.
you love and loving what you do, and that's what it's all about.
But I think if you don't do that as an artist, then you're just, I guess like Dylan said in that song, if you're not busy being born, you're busy dying. So if you're staying in one place, you might as well just be dying there as an artist. So that's what surprised me so much when I walked into your house and I saw aeroplanes. I knew about the cars. I had no idea that you were doing a series on airplanes. Tell me why they're all monochromatic. There's no color. They're all just one color. Even these over here that seem to be in color are just one color and shades of
one
it.
color and white.
So that this over here, is it a lot of wine? Is that what you said?
No, one color and white.
Oh, and white. I thought you said and wine.
And white. Yeah. Well, the collection is black and white.
Right.
All my books that in my magazines that I read all the time, they're all in black and white.
All of these are.
I lived in a black and white world, and there's a bevy. I mean, there's a plethora of really great aviation
What
artists.
does that mean? I live in a black and white world.
Well, I mean, I'm living in a black and white world with these images.
Oh, with these. Okay.
And it's really, I hate to use the word challenge, but it's very challenging to work in black and white or sepia and white because you're creating color where there isn't.
Where there isn't.
You're filling it in.
I would imagine it's
I mean,
twice as hard. I mean, guys, if you can look at this
for
thing
instance,
right here,
I'll
it's
give you an
amazing.
example. For instance, it's really hard to paint camouflage. This is a camouflage P40. It's very difficult to paint camouflage. But in real life, this is red, yellow, and blue, and the numerals are yellow, and the national insignia everybody knows is blue and white. But it's an awful lot of work. It's an awful lot of fun, and that's why I'm doing it, because it's fun.
Right. But this is all one shade of one color. This is all different shades of
It's one color.
Yeah, one color.
It's a specific.
That's got to be a lot harder to do than just do a color painting, I would imagine,
Yeah,
just to fill all that in.
it is.
And how many in this series, John?
I've done 24 so far.
And which is your favorite?
I don't have a favorite.
That one over there.
Everyone's
I
a
love
favorite.
that one right there.
My last one's a
That
favorite.
one right there is my favorite.
No, I'm doing one in flight right now. I'm finishing one in flight.
Uh-huh.
I like a couple of these where I've used two colors. Let me talk about
Oh,
these.
you
Let me talk
cheated.
about these. I cheated. Let me talk about these.
Come this way, guys.
Can you have some water?
Is there water for John?
Let me talk about. Let me talk.
Let me just wait for them to come in.
Let me talk about.
Come on
these.
through, guys. We're going to talk in this room right here.
Thanks. Let me talk about the artist. I don't know how many artists.
You're like the Pied Piper, John. They keep following you around.
That's what they're supposed to do. Isn't this a
Love your work.
walkie? Isn't this a walkie-talkie?
This is a walkie-talkie. Yep. Come on through, guys.
It's a walkie-talkie.
Follow John the Pied Piper
All
right
right.
here.
I see an artist right here.
See, this is it right
Some
here.
more there's more artists.
This is
The
it.
artists will know.
I love this. We all have to do this just for John's sake, because this is
Anybody want to take a picture right now?
everybody has to do that.
That was actually taken. This was taken by. I was 23,
This is when you were in advertising.
and I
right?
was an art director, and it was taken by a buddy of mine who's a photographer. And it was for an ad.
Right.
For a bank account that we had, and we were actually in the same bank building, and it was taken for an ad. I just had it.
You haven't changed the
I
book.
had it sitting around the studio, which is lying around. I found it, and then I did that funny little shot with me holding it, and I sent it to McGuire, just as a joke, because we'd like to joke around like that, and that's how that picture.
For those of you who don't know, Senor Jim McGuire is an incredible photographer here in Nashville. Done 1 million album covers in country music, but he took this photograph. I just love it. It's some things just never change. We think we change, but we don't. The same things we did when we were young, we still do them today. Just as the same images of those airplanes kept you up at night when you were a little boy, they still keep you up at night now.
Yeah, well,
they still intrigue you
Yeah, in the morning.
in the morning.
But you see that these two images are different colors, and the reason why is, and here again it was more difficult. There's two really ugly colors, and anyone that's an artist here understands it. Phthalo green and alizarin crimson. Two terrible.
Is that true? Oh, I hate that thing.
Terrible. Now,
And that's what these are.
Renoir used alizarin crimson. It was just stinky. Anyway, but if you take alizarin crimson and phthalo green and mix them together, you get black.
Right.
And if you put a little white in there, you can move it to warmer or cooler. And that's really tough. And these two paintings are those two colors. That are
So let me
black
ask
with
you
white.
this. It begs the question, why? Why did you pick those two colors?
Because they make black.
Okay.
They make black.
Or were you just challenging
And
yourself
yes,
to see if you could do
yes, absolutely. Because you can push it warmer or cooler.
Uh-huh.
And I push these cooler.
Right.
And so it was like it's like play.
It's like challenging.
Except
Yeah.
it's
I love
play.
it.
Except And there are also a lot of photographs that have a blue cast to them, as they have sepia casts. You know.
Any questions for John while we're in this room talking about aeroplanes?
Do you know what I'm talking? Are you an artist? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, is she an artist? No, come over here. No. She's just walked off the street like this. This is
You look like
Teresa.
an artist.
She's a fabulous artist,
Wonderful.
yeah, and we're thrilled she's here.
Oh, happy to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll be doing a show here with her very, very soon.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. So you know all about alizarin crimson and phthalo green.
I use alizarin a lot. Small doses.
I use it for
I can't stop using
I use it for neon that's glowing.
Yeah.
Oh, this
Okay, so-
artist talk. It's
Yeah.
just too much for me.
So you
Let's go
wanna
in the
go-
other room and look at some diners, shall we?
Okay.
Let's go and look at what Johnny got really famous for doing. I just love the way one follows him around. It's so great. All right, my favourite room, because I love this work.
Why? Because of the beautiful chairs.
Yes, have a seat, guys. Come on in, guys. Johnny, come down here.
Oops.
Is that you? Don't take it now.
It's a text. It's a text.
Come on in, pull your way in so we can all crowd round in here. Because this is the stuff that really gets me excited. This is the stuff that made me fall in love with John's work when I first saw it. I love this. It's a slice of America. When I first came to America from England, this was the sort of images that I saw and I fell in love with. To me, this was America. I know it's quickly disappearing right now, but when people throw that word Americana around, for me, this is Americana. This is what it is. This is,
That's a big word.
you know, it's a big word, and these are big, big paintings. Let's talk a little bit about this one, John, because I know this was
Well-
obviously a
well,
very important image for you.
Getting back to the Americana thing, you know, my whole quest is preservation. That's first, and the paintings are like second.
To preserve what? Our culture?
Our culture, our society, our
buildings?
culture.
Well, you must hate what's going on in Nashville right now.
I do, and the rest of the country. Yeah, and I think everybody else hates it too.
Why is
But
it
this-
important? Let me ask
you
you,
wanna
why is
know
it
about this
important to
image?
preserve? I want you to tell me why it's, come over here, why it's important
I have to
that we
lean
preserve.
with my
Why is
back,
that
I gotta
important
lean.
that we preserve
Because
historically?
because someone's got to do it. I mean, there's other people that are doing it, of course, in photography and painting. But I mean, our whole roadside culture is disappearing quite rapidly, and it has been since the 40s and the 50s when the interstates came in.
Right.
When the interstates came in, that's when everything started going. So it's all back roads. And I started going the back roads when I was, I guess, still in advertising in Atlanta. That's when I was taking my first photograph.
Right. I know you talked
But
about
I didn't
some
know
of
at the time, I wasn't processing the fact that I was
these documenting,
documenting,
preserving.
preserving.
Yeah, yeah.
Even in New York, I was taking pictures, photographs of diners. I did not know that I was going to become a painter, much less use diners as subject matter.
I think it's really important that we do preserve and document. I think it's important to us visually to see things that are grounded in the earth so that things are not disappearing overnight. I know when I drive down Music Row and buildings that I've seen forever are suddenly gone, I'm like, whoa, where am I? This has all changed. It doesn't feel like home anymore.
You know,
So
that's,
it's
that's
important to
really
do
funny
that.
you said that, because I feel now, I don't know about other people here in Nashville, but I feel that we're losing the character, the whole character
course,
of
yeah.
of what the city was.
Yeah.
And it's happening like every minute.
Yeah.
And I don't
And
like it.
it's
And
important to keep it. That's in places like London and Paris and Rome. You know, we go as tourists to see those things. We don't go to see their brand new office buildings. We go to see their historical buildings because that's what resonates with us. And I think that's important that we do keep those things, not to be old-fashioned and just, you know, sort of be fuddy-duddies about it. But I mean, visually, I think it grounds us to our past. And I think recognizing and acknowledging our past is important. You know, these certainly do this. Tell me about this, John, because this is, you know, it's on the cover of our magazine. It's on the cover of your book. It's obviously a very, very important image. Where is that?
well, it was in Denver, Colorado, and I just happened to be visiting a friend of mine. And this was in 1975, and he let me. He collected a few cars and buses and trucks, and he had the Checker Marathon. He let me drive it all over Colorado, and I just happened to be driving by this place.
This thing here?
The yellow cab.
Oh, you were driving this around?
Right. Yeah.
Can't
So-
you just see
so-
it?
Flag you down.
That's
so-
just the
yeah.
perfect vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. That happened. I was driving mostly southern Colorado. And
Oh, I love that.
so I just happened to run across this image, and I thought, well, maybe I should take a picture of it. Who knows? It might be a painting. Maybe it's not. But it wasn't working for me. And then all of a sudden, like a little angel from heaven, seriously, the '55 Pontiac rolled in, and I said, boy, that makes it for me, because it was my favorite color, which I call landlord green. And then, at the same time, as that was happening, the truck pulled in and said the Denver, which evidently was like a department store or some kind of store. So that gave it a sense of place. And I was visiting. I went from Denver to Mill Valley, California, to see a pal of mine that was house sitting for a while. Well, he was away with his family and kids in his laundry room. I did a painting, and that's the back cover of the book.
Wow.
Because I was upset because the book was a square format and we were going to have to crop the painting, and we were designing the book, and I thought, it needs a back cover. And it's really strange because we were sort of working on that design, and while that was happening, my old buddy that had that house just happened to send me that picture because he was moving and he found that picture. So then I sent the picture to the designer and the publisher and the editor, and they loved it. So that's how it became the back cover of the book.
Let me just ask you a question. On an image like this, I mean, the photorealism.
And then it went to the Denver Museum, by the way.
I mean, it must take an enormous amount of time to complete an image like this. The detail in it is
well, I was
ridiculous.
just writing someone today about that, as a matter of fact.
How long did this take?
Because I only had a month, and I was with a companion, and we drove all around the Bay Area 1,000 miles, and I did the painting in the same amount of time. I couldn't do it. It would take 2 months right now or more. So to answer your question, I didn't really work that hard on it, but I guess I did. I mean, it's a major piece.
And what is it about diners? I mean, I know it's not the food, but so what is it about diners that attracted you in the first place? I'm going to do a series of diner paintings. I know you were on you once, I think you said diners are high art on low roads. I love that, high art on low roads.
Oh, that's Jay. That was his little...
I love that,
Yeah.
because a lot of these diners do look very artful.
He's an art historian, and that's art historian's art.
But what is it that attracted you to?
Well, there's on an unconscious level, they were like the hearth. They were home. They were like mom.
Right.
And you sat at the counter, and they were intimate, and you got to be right next to the grillman and the waitress, and there was a sort of great sense of intimacy as opposed to sitting in a restaurant and being waited on. And
Sure, I could see that.
yeah.
And somewhere that you could be totally anonymous and just people watch, and watch the world go around.
Oh, I did it all the time, like on the subway.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, John, can we get that photograph from the next room and bring it in here? Because it's going to be hard for us to get over there.
Photograph of
The one of the Uncle Zoli. If you could bring that over, that'd be
homage to my Aunt Emmy and Uncle Zoli.
Which of these in here, John, are the ones that you feel the closest to? Which piece of work in here holds a special place with you?
Each time you do a painting, you have a relationship. It's a different relationship. It's like people.
Talk this
It's
way
like,
so they can
it's like people.
Yeah.
You have a different relationship with everybody that's in your life, so you have a different relationship with each painting.
Another
So-
person that lived across the street
So,
from
so
this
I don't
one
really
here
have
was-
a favorite. I mean, I love this image because when we designed the book, I didn't want to have to do a diner per se. So I just happened to choose it, and everybody loved it. So
And John's book on diners, I think, has been in print for 20 years now.
well, 78 and then 95,
Yeah.
and
and this
it went to
still keeps selling. Something else that John does that also surprised the dickens out of me, and we did a big story on this in the magazine a couple of years ago. I know you were doing the black and white photographs. I'd seen those, and when we'd featured those, but I didn't know you were doing still lifes like this. And this surprised me a great deal. It looked like the old sort of Dutch master. Can somebody help me hold this up, please? You know the old Dutch master paintings, the still lifes, where they were just little, and every element in it was important. It wasn't just a mismatch of objects. Every object had a reason to be there, and every object sort of pushed the narrative of the photograph along. They each told a story. This one I know is particularly important to you, John.
yeah. Well,
this was your uncle and your aunt.
Yeah, but I want to talk about doing the photographs first because those Dutch masters and the French and the Italians, and they all used North Light.
Right.
And I was using a living room, which was Jane's X Studio, which has North Light.
Okay.
So that's important.
So you're using the same light
The
as
same light. It's
Right.
all North
Yeah.
Light that's coming in. Also, the idea of faux elements. I've always loved the idea of fake fruit, fake vegetables,
Right.
because fake vegetables and fake fruit look like the real thing, and the real thing looks fake. And I love that idea, and the whole idea behind the paintings. Or the photographs rather, is reality and illusion, and it's the same idea with the photorealist painters. It's reality and illusion.
Sure. Yeah.
So you take from the photograph, you go back to the painting. So you go from the painting back to the photograph. So it's the same idea. So I had these model cars. I thought, well, what am I going to do with them? So I've always loved fake fruit and vegetables, and so I just put a few together with fake flowers,
Right.
and I took in some biographical elements. You'll see them in the other room.
There's a whole series.
There's a whole series in the other
Yeah.
room, but
Yeah.
this is particularly special because it's far more personal. We come from a perfume and cosmetic family.
And this is Baeder perfume, right?
And Margot and I, we inherited like these two, and these two bottles. It's really interesting. I got these two Baeder bottles from eBay. Actually, that was the same week, and one of them was from a perfume collector in Roanoke, and another one was from was in Los Angeles. They weren't just perfume collectors; they were perfume bottle collectors, and that's a whole big area of collecting. And the woman in Roanoke did a whole article, as a matter of fact, on the perfume bottle collection, and my family, my father's family. But my aunt, on a more deeper level, my aunt was a survivor, and my uncle was beaten to death in an internment camp. So, and that was his recipe book. And my aunt,
They were prisoner of war's
yes,
Okay.
and my aunt, that's my uncle's recipe book for all the perfumes and all the cosmetics.
Oh, you have the.
So my aunt,
Isn't that lovely?
my aunt hid the recipe book in her coat, along with a ring and
In the Nazi concentration camps.
well, wait. No, she was a survivor. If you remember Adrian Brody's character in The Pianist, you remember how he escaped?
Right.
Does anybody remember that film?
Sure.
Well, that's how my aunt escaped. She knew someone in a Nazi uniform. She was in line to the cars. She escaped and she ran. And she hid out. She was in refugee camps and so forth. And she came to Montreal in 1949. And she died, Margaret, about 93, 92? She was about 92. And Margaret and I went to go visit her. We went to go visit her, and we knew that there was a reason, because she knew that she was on the way out. She wanted to hear some stories.
Wow.
So I had to do that. I had to
Oh,
do that.
it's beautiful. I mean, I love it.
Is it watercolor?
It's photographs.
It's a photograph.
Yeah,
I could see you
The-
painting
the,
that
the
too.
whole idea is photographs.
Yeah, they're photographs.
So beautiful.
Oh no, they're gorgeous.
Oh my
With all
God.
this-
Carol, there's a room that Gary has over to the side where
There's several of
a
them.
lot of them are
And a
displayed.
car in each one.
I'm in love with that.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous, isn't it? And it says Baeder.
And there's
on the perfume bowls.
there's another image I did with another perfume bottle that I bought recently from a fellow in Romania.
Any questions for John in here?
Pardon? Yep.
Anybody
small
want to say
one,
anything
but
to
so
John while
big.
he's here? You won't see him again?
Jelly
John-
face.
Are these all on loan? Do you own any of these paintings?
They're with Gary.
They are for sale.
They are.
Ah, okay.
This is an art gallery. Remember?
It's not a museum.
Being
it's
an
art
artist.
gallery.
There's only one way to get out.
That's right. You'll buy something.
The checkbook.
Earlier, somebody who was interviewing John asked him, I mean, obviously we're both getting up there, and John said, I've only just started. So this isn't really a life's worth of work. This is just the beginning.
Oh, that was in the documentary.
Of, yeah,
The
of John's
documentary.
work. What are you
Yeah.
going to focus on next, Johnny? After
More
the
airplanes.
More airplanes.
Yeah.
Going to keep up with it. That's fantastic.
Oh, you mean after the airplanes?
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know.
Just wherever. But I love the idea that,
Oh.
even after all this work has been created from the
Oh.
early 60s, it's not the
keep
end
going.
of something, it's the beginning of something.
Maybe I'll do some more postcards.
Absolutely.
Do you work on one thing at a time?
Yes.
One series at a time?
Yeah.
So when you're doing airplanes, you're not doing still lifes with
No, no, no.
anymore?
No, when I photographed the still lifes, Gary, I was painting, and I would go into the studio to when the light was right, and usually during the summer around 6:30, 7 o'clock, it's really nice. But then it changes, and then you sort of work around that. But I would just go in the studio and just shoot pictures while I was painting. That's the only time I've done anything at the same time. You know, a lot of artists would work on 2 or 3 paintings at the same time. I can't do that.
Just do one at a time.
I can't focus or concentrate on just doing.
Well, this is a combination of oil and watercolor, and I know you sort of moved away from watercolor.
Well, you know, I can't do watercolor because I can't bend over with my back anymore. But I would, when I did an oil, I would take a break and do a watercolor, and I'd go back to doing an oil. And then I would do a watercolor, and then I'd go back and do an oil. And
Anything else, Joe?
that was my sort of process. You know.
We're going to let everyone go
You want
around.
to talk about ceramics?
Your ceramics?
Oh, it's too tight in there, isn't
Yes,
it?
yeah, we can't get in there. But
Okay.
but please spend some more time looking around the whole show. Joe's going to be around. We're all going to be here.
She has a question.
Yes, please go ahead, ma'am. Yes.
What is it about Northern Light? What's the quality
What's the quality
of
of
that?
Northern Light? Yeah.
It's. I wish I could explain it. There's a certain magic about North Light and why artists always use North Light in their studios. There's something that's just richer with North Light as opposed to west, south, or east. Or fake light. There's just something that's very rich and soft. It's softer, but it's Vermeer used North Light in all of his paintings.
That's why people in Hendersonville look softer. It's just because it's that north. Yes.
I have a question. John, with all this discipline, what is the struggle with creating a piece like this? What do you struggle with?
Sometimes, that's a good question, Patrick. Sometimes, I've discussed this with other artists, which I don't usually talk to very much. Sometimes there's an area that you're having a hard time with, and you leave it, and you come back to it, and then you leave it, and you come back to it. Then you finally got to finish it, and you come back to it. And if there's any struggle, there's a struggle. But there's not usually any struggle. It's just artists that paint realistically like I do. Everyone is different. A lot of them are very mechanical, and they start at the bottom, and they go top, or they go to the side. Because of my ADD, I guess, I don't know. I just go all over the place. I feel a certain energy, and I'll go there. And I start off with the first coat, and then I go in with the second coat, and then I clean up with like a third coat. But if there's a struggle, you don't have any power.
Yeah.
So the power comes out and the energy comes out with no struggle. But it's oftentimes there's a little area that you piddle with. You say, I'll come back to it, and then you eventually there's a little struggle there.
You go from light to dark?
Sometimes, not always. I'm not that traditional. I don't sometimes just paint in darks and then go to light or middle.
Yes, sir.
I'm very. I don't know what the label is. Weird. I don't know.
We'll go with weird. What's your question?
Well, were you saying that large airplane painting, was that the first
Yeah.
airplane that you did? Or, I
Yeah,
know you
yeah.
said the cabin was the first
Yeah,
painting.
yeah.
That was the first. That was
So
73, right?
and then you're doing them now, so how would your approach be different now than when you did that one? I noticed the little tiny detail way in the right corner, in the background, the houses and everything was...
Maybe a little bit looser.
More lucid now than you were earlier.
I'm more obsessed now. I mean, I do an incredible amount of research on each plane. I have different books and magazines to get to know the spirit of the aircraft, because there's sculpture, but there's a visual language which I'm concerned about, very esoteric visual language. When I'm doing a picture of a painting of a diner, for instance, like this one or that one over there, I just have a picture in front of me, and I use it as just a piece of information. Like a writer has notes and uses their notes for writing a fiction or nonfiction. But with aircraft paintings, I do an incredible amount of research, and they take just as long, because they're in oil. They're in oil. I mean, if I did acrylic, I could do it immediately, but I don't use acrylic.
you through with painting diners?
Yes, sir, I am.
No more diners?
No urges in there to
Well,
familiarity
you know,
or any of that?
Fat Swaller once said, "One never knows, do one?" So, you know, I can't say it's a true stoppage, but you never know.
Are you praying, Bob, or what? Anything else for John before we
It's a
let him
digital
go?
print, by the way.
All right, I think it's time to wrap it up.
I'm ready to start. I'm
Well,
ready to
he's
start
always
over
ready
again.
to start all over again.
I mean, I'll talk about those ceramics. And
John,
everything.
thank you for the work. Extraordinary work. Thank you for putting the show on, Gary. It's mind-boggling what's happened in this room.
I want to thank Gary again. I think he
Absolutely.
did an outstanding job
Yes, he did.
of installing, and I'm deeply appreciative and humbled.
Yeah.
And
So all the good things I had to work with John, it was easy.
Let's hear it for John Baeder.
Do you have a question?
No, we're going to get a drink.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of paper did you use?
Hammer Mule.